The stars looked different from the bridge of the warship Death's Edge. Commander Kale stood with his arms crossed behind his back, watching the yellow star grow larger on the main screen. His dark blue skin had patterns of silver lines that showed his rank in the Void Talons. These lines moved and changed color when he was angry or excited. "Commander, we are getting close to the third planet," said his second officer. The officer's voice came out as a series of clicks and whistles. All of the Void Talons spoke this way. Their throats were built for making these sounds. Kale nodded. He had been thinking about this mission for many days. The Galactic Confederation had sent his unit to make first contact with a new species. These beings called themselves humans. They lived on the third planet from this yellow star. "What do we know about them again?" Kale asked. His science officer stepped forward. She was smaller than Kale, but still almost 3 meters tall. Her name was Sek, and she had been studying the humans for weeks. "They live on what we call a Class 12 death world, Commander," Sek said. "The planet has violent storms, deadly radiation, and crushing gravity. The air has poison gases that would kill most of our people in minutes." Kale made a sound like grinding metal. This was how his people laughed. "And yet these humans survive there?" "More than survive, Commander. They seem to enjoy living there. Our long-range sensors show they have built cities all over the planet. They even live in the most dangerous areas." Another officer spoke up. His name was Vex, and he was the weapons expert. "Commander, maybe they are very weak. Living on such a terrible world might have made them soft. They probably hide underground most of the time." Kale was not so sure. The Confederation had rules about first contact. They had to try talking before fighting. But Kale and his Void Talons had conquered 17 worlds. They had defeated dozens of alien species. Most beings in the galaxy feared them. "Show me their planet again," Kale ordered. The main screen changed to show Earth. Kale had seen it many times, but it still made him feel uncomfortable. The planet was mostly blue, with white clouds swirling around it. It looked peaceful, but Sek had told him the truth about it. The blue parts were vast oceans filled with deadly creatures. Some of these creatures were bigger than their ship. The white clouds were actually violent storms that could destroy cities. The brown and green parts were land where poisonous plants grew and dangerous animals hunted. "No wonder they are probably weak," Vex said again. "Nothing strong could evolve on such a world." But Sek shook her head. "That is not what our data shows, Vex. Look at this." She pressed some buttons and the screen showed pictures of humans. They were much smaller than the Void Talons. They had soft skin with no natural armor. They had small teeth and weak-looking claws. But something about them made Kale feel strange. "They look like prey animals," Vex said. "Small, soft, helpless. Then why do they move like predators?" Sek asked. She played a video of humans walking. Kale watched carefully. The humans did move in a strange way. They walked on 2 legs, but they moved with smooth, controlled steps. Their heads turned quickly to watch everything around them. Their eyes seemed to see everything. "These are not prey animals," Kale said quietly. "I have hunted on many worlds. I know how prey moves. These beings move like hunters." A new voice spoke from the communication system. "Void Talon's warship. This is Captain Hyan of the human vessel New Soul. We have been expecting you." Kale was surprised. The humans had detected their ship. The Death's Edge had the best hiding technology in the galaxy. No one should have been able to see them coming. "Put me through to them," Kale ordered. The screen changed to show a human face. Captain Hyan looked like the pictures Sek had shown them, but something was different about seeing a real one. The human's eyes were dark and seemed to look right into Kyle's soul. The human's mouth curved upward in what their file said was called a smile. "Greetings, Commander Kale," Captain Hyan said. "Welcome to our solar system. We would be honored to host you for a traditional feast aboard our orbital station." Kyle was shocked. How did this human know his name? How did they know he was a commander? The Confederation had not given the humans any information about the Void Talons. "You know who I am?" Kale asked. Captain Hyan's smile got bigger. "We have been watching your ship since you entered our system 3 days ago. We know about the Galactic Confederation. We know about the Void Talons. We have been preparing for your arrival." Vex stepped closer to Kale. "Commander, this might be a trap. How could they know so much about us?" But Kale was thinking about something else. These humans had detected their ship 3 days ago. The best ships in the galaxy could not do that. And they had somehow learned about the Confederation and the Void Talons without any official contact. "What kind of feast?" Kyle asked. "A traditional Earth feast," Captain Hyan said. We would like to share our food and culture with you. It is how humans welcome important guests. Kale looked at his officers. Sek seemed curious. Vex looked suspicious. The other Void Talons on the bridge were watching the screen with interest. We accept, Kyle said. He thought this would be a good chance to study the humans up close. Maybe he could learn their weaknesses. If they were planning a trap, the Void Talons were ready for anything. Excellent, Captain Hyan said. We will send you coordinates for our orbital station. When would be convenient for you? We will come now, Kale said. Perfect. We will have everything ready for you. The communication ended and the bridge was quiet for a moment. Commander, Vex said, I do not like this. How did they detect our ship? How do they know about us? That is exactly what I want to find out, Kale said. Prepare a boarding party. Full combat armor and weapons. Are we expecting a fight? Sek asked. I am expecting anything, Kale replied. These humans live on a death world. They detected our stealth ship. They know things they should not know. Either they are much more advanced than we thought, or they are much more dangerous. As the Death's Edge moved toward the coordinates Captain Hyan had given them, Kyle thought about the human's smile. He had seen many species try to hide their fear when meeting the Void Talons. Some tried to look brave. Some tried to look friendly. But Captain Hyan had looked genuinely happy to see them. That worried Kale more than fear or anger would have. There, Sek said, pointing at the screen. The human station. Kyle looked and felt another chill. The human orbital station was huge. It was built like a fortress with thick walls and defensive positions, but it was also beautiful. With gardens visible through transparent sections, it looked like a place where warriors lived, but warriors who also enjoyed art and beauty. Weapons? Vex asked. Many, Sek replied, but they are not pointed at us. In fact, Commander, the humans seem to have weapons we do not recognize. What do you mean? I mean our computers cannot identify their technology. Whatever they are using, it is not in our databases. Kale felt the ship slowing down as they approached the docking bay. Through the windows, he could see humans moving around inside the station. They wore clothes instead of armor, but they moved with the same predator-like grace he had noticed in the videos. Final weapons check, Kale ordered. Remember, we are the most feared warriors in the galaxy. Whatever these humans are planning, we are ready for it. But as their ship connected to the human station, Kale wondered if that was really true. Something about this whole situation felt wrong. The humans were too calm, too prepared, too confident. The docking bay doors opened and Kale got his first real look at the beings who lived on a death world and called it home. The airlock opened with a soft hiss and Commander Kale stepped onto the human station. The first thing that hit him was the smell. It was not the clean, sterile air of most space stations. This air smelled alive, full of strange scents he could not identify. Behind him, 11 other Void Talons followed. Each warrior wore full combat armor that made them look even more dangerous than usual. Their weapons were charged and ready. Kale had chosen his best fighters for this mission. Welcome aboard Orbital Station Harmony, said a voice. Kale looked around and saw a human walking toward them. The being was much smaller than any of the Void Talons, but something about the way it moved made Kale feel uncomfortable. The human walked with perfect balance, each step careful and controlled. I am Day, Chief Cultural Liaison, the human said. Captain Hyan sends his greetings. He is preparing for the feast and will join us soon. Day looked completely calm, even though 12 heavily armed alien warriors had just entered the station. Most species would be terrified or at least nervous, but Day seemed genuinely happy to see them. Your weapons, Day said, looking at the Void Talons' combat gear. Very impressive. May I ask what they are designed to do? Vex stepped forward. He was proud of his weapons and liked to talk about them. Neural disruptors, he said, pointing to the device on his arm. They can shut down the nervous system of any living being. These, he tapped his shoulder weapons, fire plasma bolts hot enough to melt through ship armor. Fascinating, Day said. We have similar concepts, but our approaches are quite different. Would you like a tour of our station while the final preparations are made? Kale nodded. This would be a good chance to study human technology and find their weaknesses. As they walked through the corridors, Kyle noticed more strange things. The walls were thick, much thicker than they needed to be for a normal space station. When he asked about this, Day smiled. Oh, that's for protection, Day said casually. Solar flares, asteroid impacts, electrical storms. You know how space can be. But Kale did not know how space could be like that. Most species built their stations in safe areas, far from such dangers. Why would humans put their station where it needed such heavy protection? They passed a window and Kale looked out at Earth. From here, he could see the planet's surface more clearly. Massive storms swirled across the continents. Lightning flashed constantly. The oceans looked rough and violent. Beautiful, isn't it? Day said, following Kale's gaze. Beautiful? Sek asked. That planet looks like it is trying to kill everything on it. Day laughed. The sound was strange to Kale's ears. Human laughter was different from the grinding metal sound that void talons made. It was warmer, but somehow more unsettling. Well, yes, I suppose it can be dangerous, Day admitted. But that's what makes it interesting. Earth keeps us sharp, keeps us ready for anything. They continued the tour, and Kale saw more humans. Some wore uniforms that looked like military gear. Others wore simple clothes. But all of them moved with that same predator-like grace. Even the smallest humans seemed alert and ready. These are Marines Wu and Kai, Day said, introducing two humans in military uniforms. They help with station security. Marine Wu was not much bigger than Day, but when Kyle looked into the human's eyes, he felt something he had not felt in many years. It was the same feeling he got when facing a dangerous animal in the wild. This small, soft-looking being somehow felt like a threat. Pleasure to meet you, Marine Wu said. Hope you enjoy the feast. Sol has been cooking all day. Sol, Kale asked. Our head chef, Marine Key, explained. He's excited to share some traditional Earth foods with you. As they walked, Kale noticed the human's eyes. They never stopped moving. Each human constantly watched everything around them. Their heads turned to follow sounds. They noticed every movement, every shadow. Your people seem very alert, Kale observed. Habit, Day said. When you grow up on Earth, you learn to pay attention. Things can change quickly down there. They entered what Day called the engineering section. A human named Young was working on some kind of machine. The device was making sparks and loud noises that would have made most beings nervous. But Young worked calmly, his hands moving quickly among the dangerous-looking parts. Young is our engineering specialist, Day said. Young, we have guests. Young looked up and smiled. His hands were covered in some kind of dark substance, and there were burn marks on his clothes. But he seemed completely comfortable. Welcome, Young said. Sorry about the mess. Just fixing some storm damage. Storm damage? Vex asked. In space? Solar storm hit us yesterday, Young explained. Nothing major, just fried a few systems. Happens all the time out here. Young spoke about the solar storm like it was no more serious than rain. But Kale knew that solar storms could destroy entire fleets. Most species avoided areas where such storms happened. Does this not concern you? Kale asked. Young looked confused. Why would it? We just fix what breaks and keep going. Earth has much worse storms than space does. As they continued the tour, Kale began to understand something disturbing. These humans were not afraid of danger. They expected it. They planned for it. They seemed to think that living with constant threats was normal. Here's our communications center, Day said, leading them into another room. A human named Bo was sitting at a control station. Multiple screens showed information that Kale could not read, but he could see that the humans were monitoring many different things at once. Bo keeps us connected with Earth and our other stations, Day explained. Other stations? Sek asked. Oh yes, we have several orbital platforms, Bo said without looking away from the screens, plus bases on Luna, Mars, and the asteroid belt. Humans like to spread out. Kyle felt another chill. The humans had multiple space installations? His intelligence reports had mentioned only this one station. How many humans were really out here? Your species expands quickly, Kyle said. We like to explore, Day said. Earth taught us that staying in one place can be dangerous. It's better to have options. They passed a section where Kale could see into what looked like living quarters. The rooms were comfortable but built like fortresses. Everything was designed to survive damage and keep working. Your people live as if they expect attack, Vex observed. Not attack exactly, Day said. But things happen. Equipment fails, accidents occur, emergencies arise. It's better to be ready. Kyle was beginning to realize that these humans lived their entire lives prepared for disaster. Not because they were afraid, but because disaster was so common for them that preparation was automatic. They entered a large room filled with plants. Kale had never seen anything like it. Green growing things covered every surface. The air smelled rich and alive. This is one of our gardens, Day said proudly. We grow food and maintain air quality. You grow your own food? Sek asked. Of course. Space is unpredictable. Supply ships can be delayed or destroyed. It's important to be self-sufficient. Kale looked closer at the plants. Many of them had thorns, spines, or other defensive features. Even the human food plants looked dangerous. Are these plants safe to eat? He asked. Day laughed again. Safe is a relative term. But yes, humans can eat all of these. Some are quite spicy, though. Spicy? They cause pain when you eat them. Humans enjoy that. Kyle stared at Day. The humans grew plants that caused pain and they ate them for pleasure? What kind of species did that? A new voice spoke over the communication system. Attention, our guests have arrived. The feast will begin in 30 minutes. Please make your way to the main dining hall. That's Chef Sol, Day said. He's been looking forward to this all week. We don't often get to share our food culture with new species. As they walked toward the dining hall, Kyle felt more unsettled than when he had started the tour. These humans were not what he had expected. They were small and looked fragile, but they lived like warriors. They expected danger and prepared for it without fear. More disturbing was how comfortable they seemed with things that would terrify most other species. Solar storms, equipment failures, food that caused pain, plants with defensive spines. The humans treated all of this as normal. Commander, Vex whispered. I do not like this. These beings are strange, Kale nodded. He was beginning to think that the humans were more than strange. They were something new in his experience. Every other species the Void Talons had encountered showed fear when facing superior force. But these humans seemed genuinely happy to have armed alien warriors on their station. As they approached the dining hall, Kale could smell more of those strange scents. Whatever the humans were preparing for this feast, it smelled like nothing he had ever encountered before. I hope you brought good appetites, Day said cheerfully. Sul has prepared quite a spread. Traditional foods from all over Earth. The doors to the dining hall opened and Kale got his first look at what humans called a feast. The dining hall was bigger than Commander Kale had expected. Long tables filled the room and the walls were decorated with pictures of Earth landscapes. But what caught Kale's attention were the smells. Strange, powerful odors filled the air. Some smelled good, others made his stomach feel uncomfortable. Welcome, welcome, called a loud voice. A human wearing white clothes walked toward them. This had to be Chef Sol. He was shorter than the other humans and had a round belly. His face was red and sweating, but he looked very happy. I am so excited to share our food with you, Sul said, wiping his hands on his white apron. I have prepared dishes from many different Earth cultures. This will be a feast to remember. Kale looked around the room. Several other humans were already seated at the tables. Captain Hyan was there, along with the humans they had met during the tour. Everyone looked relaxed and cheerful. Please sit anywhere you like, Sul said, gesturing to the tables. We will start with some appetizers while the main courses finish cooking. The Void Talons sat together at one end of a long table. Their armor made loud clanking sounds against the chairs. In contrast, the humans moved quietly and smoothly as they took their seats. First, Sul announced, we have some fresh seafood from Earth's oceans. Several humans carried trays to the tables. When they set the trays down, Kale heard something that made his blood freeze. The food was making noise. Small clicking and scratching sounds came from the plates. What is that sound? Vex whispered. Captain Hyan smiled. Oh, that's just the oysters and crabs. They're still fresh. Still fresh? Sek asked. Still alive, Marine Wu explained cheerfully. He reached for something that looked like a shell. With his bare hands, he twisted it open with a sharp crack. Inside was a gray, slimy thing that moved slightly. Kale watched in horror as Marine Wu lifted the shell to his mouth and swallowed the moving creature whole. Delicious, Wu said. Nothing beats fresh oysters. Around the table, other humans were doing the same thing. They were eating living creatures with obvious pleasure. Some used small tools to crack open shells. Others just used their hands. The sounds of breaking shells and satisfied human noises filled the air. Would you like to try some? Sol asked, offering a tray to the Void Talons. Kale looked at the tray. Several creatures were moving around on it. Their legs waved in the air. Their eyes seemed to look right at him. You eat them while they are alive? Kale managed to ask. Of course, Sol said, looking confused. Dead seafood goes bad quickly. Fresh is always better. Chef Sol picked up one of the creatures. It was covered in a hard shell and had many legs. Without hesitation, Sul cracked it open and pulled out pieces of white meat. The creature's legs kept moving even as Sewell ate it. "This is crab," Sewell explained between bites. "Very popular on Earth. The trick is to get them right from the ocean." Engineering specialist Young reached for his own crab. "Brain food," he said with a grin. "Helps us think better." Cale felt sick. These humans were not just eating living creatures. They were enjoying it. They talked about it like it was normal, pleasant even. "On our world," Sek said carefully, "we prepare our food so that it does not suffer." "Oh, these don't suffer much," Marine Key said. "Oysters don't have complex nervous systems, and we kill the crabs quickly before eating them." As if to demonstrate, Kai picked up a crab and did something quick with a small knife. The crab stopped moving, but Kai immediately started eating it. "See? Very humane," Kai said. But Cale was not thinking about whether it was humane. He was thinking about what kind of species developed a taste for living prey. On most worlds, only the most vicious predators ate live food, and they usually did it out of necessity, not pleasure. "What else do you eat?" Vex asked. His voice sounded strange. "Oh, we're just getting started," Sewell said happily. "Next, we have some aged and fermented foods." More trays appeared. These smells were even stronger than the seafood. Some of the odors made Cale's eyes water. "This is cheese," Sewell said, cutting pieces from a large block. "This particular cheese is 18 months old." 18 months? Sek asked. "Yes, we age it to improve the flavor. The older the better." Saul offered pieces of the cheese to the humans. They all took some and began eating with obvious enjoyment. But Cale could see things in the cheese. Small spots of blue and green that moved slightly. "What are those spots?" he asked. "Bacteria," Young said casually. "That's what gives aged cheese its flavor. The bacteria eat the cheese and create new tastes." Cale stared. The humans were eating food that was being consumed by bacteria, food that was essentially rotting. "It is spoiled," Vex said. "Not spoiled," Communications Officer Bo corrected. "Aged. There's a difference. Spoiled food makes you sick. Aged food makes you happy." Sol brought out more items. "This is kimchi," he said, offering a bowl of red, chunky material. "Fermented vegetables. Very healthy." The smell from the kimchi was so strong that several void talons moved back from the table, but the humans were eating it eagerly. "Fermented for 6 weeks," Day explained. "The longer it ferments, the more complex the flavors become." "And this," Sewell said proudly, holding up a small bottle, "is fish sauce, made from fish that we let rot in salt for a year. A year. These humans deliberately let food rot for an entire year, then ate it." Sewell poured some of the dark liquid onto his food. The smell was so powerful that Cale's throat burned just from breathing it. "Essential for many Asian dishes," Sewell explained. "You can't get this flavor any other way." Captain Hyon was eating something that looked like small fish. But these fish had been sitting in liquid for so long that they were soft and falling apart. "Pickled herring," Hyon said when he noticed Cale watching. "Another aged food. These have been in vinegar and spices for months." Kyle was beginning to understand something terrible. These humans did not just eat fresh food like most species. They deliberately corrupted their food. They let bacteria consume it. They let it rot and decay, and they called this improvement. "Why?" Sek asked quietly. "Why do you do this to food?" "Preservation," Young answered. "And flavor. Fresh food goes bad quickly, but properly aged and fermented foods last much longer. Plus, the aging process creates tastes that don't exist in fresh food." "But the bacteria," Vex said, "of the decay. This food is full of things that could make you sick." Saul laughed. "Only if you do it wrong. Humans have been fermenting food for thousands of years. We know which bacteria are good and which are bad. The good bacteria protect the food from the bad bacteria." Cale felt a chill run through his body. These humans had learned to control decay. They had turned rotting food into a science. They deliberately exposed themselves to bacteria and called it improvement. "Plus," Marine Wu added, eating another piece of aged cheese, "it tastes amazing. Fresh food is nice, but aged food has character." The humans continued eating their corrupted food with obvious pleasure. They shared bites with each other and discussed the flavors like they were talking about art. Some foods were too mild and needed more aging. Others were perfectly funky and had just the right amount of decay. Chef Sol brought out more items. Sour bread that had been made with bacteria cultures, aged meats that had been hanging in caves for months, pickled vegetables that had been sitting in acid for so long they had changed color completely. Each new food was stranger than the last. Each one had been deliberately corrupted in some way. And the humans ate all of it with enthusiasm. This is how you survive, Kyle said slowly. It was not a question. Part of it, Day agreed. When food is scarce, you can't waste anything. When you don't know when your next meal will come, you learn to preserve what you have. When you live in a dangerous world, you eat whatever keeps you alive. But you are not starving now, Sek pointed out. No, Captain Hyon said. But these foods are part of our culture now. We eat them because we like them, not just because we need them. They remind us of our history and our strength. Young raised his glass of some dark liquid. To adaptation, he said. The other humans raised their glasses. To adaptation, they repeated and drank. Kel watched as the humans consumed their corrupted feast. He was beginning to realize that this was not just about food. This was about a species that had learned to find strength in what would poison others. They had turned decay into nourishment, corruption into culture, and they were just getting started. Commander Kale thought the worst was over. The humans had eaten living creatures and rotting food, but surely that was enough. Then Chef Sol stood up with a huge smile on his face. Now for the main courses, Sol announced. I hope everyone is ready for some real Earth flavors. New trays arrived at the table. The smells coming from them made Kale's eyes water immediately. It was like breathing fire. Several of the Void Talons started coughing. What is that? Vex gasped, his voice rough. Peppers, Marine Key said happily. He picked up a small red object that was barely the size of his thumb. Ghost peppers from India. One of my favorites. Without any hesitation, Kai bit into the pepper. Immediately, his face turned red. Sweat appeared on his forehead. His eyes started watering. But instead of looking distressed, Kai smiled. Perfect heat level, Kai said, even though his voice was strained. Kale watched in shock as other humans began eating the same peppers. Each one had the same reaction. Red faces, sweating, tears in their eyes. But they all looked happy. Are you in pain? Sek asked. Oh yes, Marine Wu replied, eating his own pepper. Burns like crazy. That's the point. The point is to hurt yourself? The point is to feel alive, engineering specialist Young explained. He was eating something even redder than the ghost peppers. These are Carolina Reapers, much hotter than the ghost peppers. Young's entire face was now bright red. Sweat poured down his cheeks. He was breathing hard and fast. But he took another bite. Why? Kale asked. He could not understand what he was seeing. Endorphins, Communications Officer Bo explained while eating her own pepper. The pain makes your body release chemicals that feel good. It's like a natural drug. Chef Sol brought over a bottle of dark red sauce. This is made from the hottest peppers we can grow, he said proudly. We call it liquid pain. Most humans can only handle a few drops. Sol put several drops of the sauce on a piece of bread and ate it. His reaction was immediate and extreme. His face turned purple. Tears streamed down his cheeks. He started hiccuping and gasping for air. But through it all, he was smiling. Good batch, Sol managed to say between gasps. The Void Talons stared in horror. These humans were deliberately poisoning themselves with plant chemicals. They were causing themselves serious pain, and they enjoyed it. Your species enjoys suffering, Vex said quietly. Not suffering exactly, Captain Hyon corrected. He was eating something called a habanero pepper. We enjoy challenge. Pain means we're pushing our limits. But why push limits during a meal? Sek asked. Because we can, Day replied simply. She was eating what Sol called a Thai bird's eye chili. Even though tears were running down her face, she looked completely calm. Humans like to test themselves. Food is just one way to do it. Cal was beginning to understand something that terrified him. These humans had weaponized their own pain receptors. They had turned suffering into entertainment. But the peppers were just the beginning. Sol brought out more bottles and containers. Now we move on to drinks, Sol announced. Starting with some traditional alcohol. He poured clear liquid into small glasses and handed them around. The humans all took glasses, but none of the Void Talons did. What is alcohol? Kale asked. Ethanol, Young explained. It's technically a poison, but in small amounts it makes humans feel relaxed and social. A poison. The humans were drinking poison for fun. Cheers, Captain Hyon said, raising his glass. All the humans raised their glasses and drank. Kale watched their faces. Some made expressions like they were in pain. Others looked like they were fighting not to spit out the liquid. Strong, Marine Wu said, his voice rough. That's 180 proof grain alcohol, Sewell explained proudly. Almost pure ethanol. We use it for making extracts, but some people drink it straight. It burns going down, Bo added, but that's part of the experience. Saul poured different liquids into new glasses. This is whiskey, aged in oak barrels for 12 years. This is vodka, distilled 5 times for purity. This is rum, made from fermented sugar. Each drink was apparently a different kind of poison, and the humans drank all of them with obvious pleasure. Alcohol damages your nervous system, Sek observed. In large amounts, yes, Day agreed. But humans have been drinking alcohol for thousands of years. Our bodies can process small amounts safely, and the feeling is worth the risk, Key added, sipping something Saul called tequila. But Saul was not finished. He brought out more bottles. Coffee, he announced, pouring dark liquid into cups. Pure caffeine extract. The smell was sharp and bitter. When the humans drank it, some made faces like they were drinking medicine. Caffeine is also a poison, Young explained cheerfully, but it makes our brains work faster. Most humans drink it every day. Every day? Vex asked. Some humans drink it multiple times every day, Bo said. I personally have 6 cups of coffee each morning. 6 cups of poison. Every morning, and this was normal for them. What happens if you do not drink it? Kale asked. Withdrawal, Jan answered. Headaches, fatigue, irritability. Our bodies become dependent on the caffeine. So humans deliberately addicted themselves to a daily poison, and they acted like this was reasonable. Sol brought out more items. Chocolate that was 99% pure cacao and so bitter it made the humans' faces scrunch up. Energy drinks with extreme caffeine levels that made their hands shake. Tea that was so strong it was almost black. Each item was designed to challenge the human body in some way. Too bitter, too stimulating, too intense, but the humans consumed everything with enthusiasm. Now for temperature challenges, Sewell announced. He brought out bowls of soup that were still boiling. Steam rose from them in thick clouds. The humans immediately began eating, even though the soup was clearly hot enough to cause burns. Careful, Sewell warned. It's about 200 degrees. 200 degrees. That was hot enough to damage tissue. But the humans ate it anyway, blowing on their spoons and making sounds of pain and pleasure at the same time. Burns the tongue a little, Marine Wu said, but that's how you know it's fresh. Then Sol brought out the opposite. Frozen desserts that were so cold they created clouds of vapor. The humans ate these too, even though the cold was clearly painful. Brain freeze, Young said, holding his head after eating too much frozen dessert too quickly. Classic mistake. But you continue eating it, Sek observed. Of course, Young replied. It tastes good. The humans alternated between burning hot and freezing cold foods. They seemed to enjoy the contrast. Pain from heat, pain from cold, back and forth. Your people enjoy torturing yourselves, Kyle said. We enjoy experiences. Day corrected. Extreme temperatures, strong flavors, chemical effects. These things make eating interesting. But they also cause damage, Vex pointed out. Minor damage, Captain Hyun said. Nothing permanent. The human body is very good at healing small injuries. Sol brought out the final items. Salt crystals that were so concentrated they made the humans' faces twist with pain. Vinegar so acidic it made their eyes water. Sugar so pure and concentrated it was almost like eating crystals. Everything was extreme. Everything pushed the limits of what a body could handle. And the humans ate it all with obvious enjoyment. This is how you eat every day? Kale asked. Not every day, Sol laughed. This is a special feast. But yes, humans like strong flavors and challenging foods. Mild food is boring. Mild food is safe, Sek said. Safe is boring too, Kai replied. Kale looked around the table. The humans had consumed enough toxins, irritants, and extreme substances to kill several members of most other species. They had deliberately caused themselves pain, challenged their bodies' limits, and pushed through discomfort for pleasure. And they called this a feast. They called this culture. They called this normal. You weaponized your own biology, Kale said slowly. What do you mean? Young asked. You turned pain into pleasure. You made poisons into food. You transformed suffering into celebration. The humans looked at each other and smiled. I never thought of it that way, Day said, but I suppose that's accurate. When your world tries to kill you every day, Captain Hyon added, you learn to find joy in surviving it. Commander Kale finally understood what he was facing. These were not just survivors. These were beings who had evolved beyond normal survival. They had turned the act of living into an art form of endurance. The feast was ending, but Commander Kale's horror was just beginning. He watched the humans clean their plates and smile like they had just enjoyed a pleasant meal. Their faces were still red from the peppers. Their eyes still watered from the spices. But they looked completely satisfied. "That was wonderful," Captain Hyan said, wiping his mouth with a cloth. "Sol, you outdid yourself." Chef Sol beamed with pride. "I am so glad you enjoyed it. It is always a pleasure to share Earth's food culture with new friends." Kale stared at Sul. The human had just fed them enough toxins and irritants to kill a small army, and he called it sharing culture. "Of course," Sul continued, "this was just a sample of human food. We kept everything fairly mild since you are new to Earth cuisine." Mild. Everything they had just witnessed was mild. "What do you mean by mild?" Sek asked carefully. "Well," engineering specialist Young said, "we did not want to overwhelm you, so Sol chose foods that most humans can handle without too much preparation." "Preparation?" Vex whispered. "Training," Marine Key explained. "Building up tolerance. Some of our traditional foods require years of practice before you can eat them safely. Years of training to eat food." Kale felt his mind struggling to understand this concept. "For example," Communications Officer Bo said, "we have peppers that are 50 times hotter than what we serve tonight. But you need to start with mild peppers and work your way up. 50 times hotter." The peppers they had eaten were already hot enough to cause serious pain. "What would 50 times hotter do? And the alcohol," Marine Wu added. "What we drank tonight was strong, but there are traditional drinks that are much more potent. Some are so strong they can dissolve metal." "Dissolve metal?" "The humans drank liquids that could dissolve metal." "Why?" Kyle asked. His voice sounded strange even to himself. "Why do you do this?" The humans looked at each other. For the first time since the feast began, they seemed to be thinking carefully about their answer. "Because we can," Day said finally. "Because our world taught us that we could." "Earth tried to kill us," Captain Hyan explained. "For millions of years, our planet threw everything it had at our species. Ice ages, volcanic eruptions, plagues, famines, predators, poisonous plants, deadly weather. Most species would have died out," Young added. "Most species did die out. But humans adapted. We learned to eat anything," Sul said. "Poisonous plants, rotten meat, insects, roots, bark from trees. If it would not kill us immediately, we found a way to make it edible. We learned to survive anywhere," Bo continued. "Frozen wastelands, burning deserts, high mountains, deep caves. If there was a way to live there, humans found it. And we learned to enjoy the struggle," Kai said. "Because struggling meant we were still alive." Kyle felt something cold spreading through his chest. These humans were not just survivors. They were the end result of millions of years of surviving the impossible. "This food," Kyle said slowly, "this is not special occasion food. This is normal for you." "This is who we are," Young agreed. "We are the species that learn to find pleasure in what kills others." "But surely," Sek said, "surely you have simple foods too. Foods that do not cause pain or challenge your bodies." The humans smiled. It was not a cruel smile, but it was not entirely kind either. "We do," Day said. "But we call those foods bland or boring. Most humans prefer food with character." "Character meaning poison," Vex said. "Character meaning flavor," Sul corrected. "Complexity, challenge, interest," Young leaned forward. "Let me ask you something. What do your people eat?" "Nutrient compounds," Kale replied. "Balanced proteins, carbohydrates, vitamins, and minerals. Everything the body needs for optimal function. And it tastes like?" Young pressed. "It tastes adequate." The humans looked at each other and made expressions that might have been pity. "That sounds very sad," Sul said gently. "Sad?" Kale asked. "To eat only for nutrition," Hyun explained. "To never experience the joy of flavor, the thrill of spice, the satisfaction of conquering a challenging dish. We eat for survival," Vex said. "We eat for living," Kai replied. The difference hit Kale like a physical blow. His people ate to survive. These humans ate to live. There was a difference he had never understood before. "Would you like to hear about our feast traditions?" Day asked. Without waiting for an answer, she continued. "When human children reach adulthood, they often participate in spice challenges. They start with mild peppers and work their way up to the hottest ones they can handle. It is a test of courage and endurance. When humans celebrate victories, we often have drinking contests. Who can consume the most alcohol and still function? It is a test of strength and tolerance. When humans gather for special occasions, we prepare the most extreme foods we can, not because we have to, but because we want to. Because sharing the challenge makes the bond stronger. Young pulled out a small device and showed them pictures. These are some of our traditional festival foods. This is called ghost pepper ice cream. This is pure caffeine chocolate. This is medical-grade alcohol punch. Each picture showed humans eating foods that would be classified as weapons by most species, and they were smiling while doing it. Your people compete to see who can poison themselves the most, Sex said. Our people compete to see who can push the furthest past normal limits, Bo corrected. It is not about poisoning. It is about transcending. Kale felt the word echo in his mind. Let me tell you about Earth history, Captain Heian said. When other species faced challenges, they adapted slowly over thousands of generations. When humans faced challenges, we adapted within a single lifetime. When ice covered our world, we learned to make fire and clothing. When predators hunted us, we learned to make weapons and traps. When plants poisoned us, we learned to cook and process them safely. And when we ran out of challenges, Day added, we created new ones. You created challenges for yourselves, Kyle said. We created art, Sol replied. Cooking became art. Eating became art. Surviving became art. Young stood up and walked to the window that showed Earth. Look at our world, Commander Kyle. Really look at it. Kyle looked. He saw the storms, the violent oceans, the harsh continents. But now he also saw the lights. Cities glowing in the darkness. Space elevators reaching into orbit. Orbital platforms like the one they were on. We did not just survive our world, Young said quietly. We conquered it. We turned it into our garden. We made it beautiful. And then we reached for the stars, Hyun added. Because conquering one death world was not enough. We needed more challenges. The truth hit Kale with devastating force. The humans had not just survived their hostile world. They had thrived on it. They had turned survival into an addiction. They had made challenge into culture, and now they were expanding into space looking for new challenges to conquer. Your people, Kyle said slowly, are not just survivors. You are conquerors of impossibility. We prefer to think of ourselves as artists of adaptation, Day said with a gentle smile. But yes, Captain Heian agreed. We are conquerors. We conquer what others cannot even imagine surviving. Kale looked around at his warriors. Every one of them looked shaken. These Void Talons had conquered 17 worlds and defeated dozens of species, but they had never faced anything like this. What will you tell your Confederation about us? Young asked. Kale thought carefully. What could he say? That he had met a species that ate poison for pleasure? That they drank toxins for fun? That they had turned their own biology into a weapon of adaptation? I will tell them, Kale said finally, that we have found the galaxy's true apex predators. And I will recommend immediate diplomatic relations, he continued. Not from a position of strength, but from respect for a species that has weaponized survival itself. The humans smiled. It was warm and genuine, but Kale also saw something else in their eyes. Intelligence, calculation, the look of beings who had just been correctly understood for what they truly were. We would like that very much, Captain Heian said. The galaxy is full of challenges we have not yet experienced. As Kale and his warriors prepared to leave, Chef Sol approached with a small container. Some leftovers, Sol said cheerfully. So you can share Earth flavors with your people. Kyle took the container carefully. Inside were samples of everything they had eaten. Enough poison and irritants to devastate a small colony. The humans called it a gift. Thank you for the feast, Kale said, and he meant it. They had given him something more valuable than food. They had given him understanding. As the Void Talons returned to their ship, Kale knew that everything had changed. They had come expecting to find primitives or easy prey. Instead, they had found the future rulers of the galaxy, beings who ate impossibility for breakfast and called it delicious.